San Francisco. It happens to be the area I'm in right now, UK. Argentina, welcome. From Virginia, but now I'm Bogota, Colombia. That's great. Dallas, Texas. Cape Verde, Arizona. Cool. We'll be starting in about a minute and a half. Okay. Michigan. Welcome. Okay. All right, we're coming up on the bottom of the hour here in the US. Let's begin. All right. So this is a career overview. We're going to explore career opportunities in data analytics. I want to start with an announcement. Bryan Campbell had to cancel this morning due to illness, and I apologize for that. I will be taking over the webinar. My name is Stuart Creek. I'm with Simplilearn, and I'll take you through this presentation. We're also going to try to schedule another episode of this in the coming months with another expert. But today we're going to talk about data analytics and careers in the field. And we'll talk about opportunities that you can pursue. I'll ask you a few questions along the way, and I'll tell you about a data analytics certification program, share with you a bonus offer for being here today with us, just for attending the webinar. I'll take your questions and answer them to the best of my ability. My background is that I've been in business for more than 4 decades. Held various roles in business analytics, along with marketing communications. So I'm not an expert in the field, but I do have a background. And let's talk about data analytics. Chat here. If you have questions along the way, please put them into the Q&A box. As I'll be doing the presentation, I won't be able to monitor the chat very closely, but if you put them in the Q&A, I will be able to get to those in the Q&A period at the end of the presentation. Let's talk about data analytics. Data analytics is based on principles of statistics, which have developed over the centuries, probability theory to observing the normal distribution, to laws of large numbers, Bayes' theorem. The 1800s brought advances in understanding correlation, regression, variance, things that we now know for statistical analysis. And the 1900s, the 20th century, brought us into a whole new set of tools that allow us to use statistics to understand the meaning behind data, to do things like predictive analytics, prescriptive analytics. So this is the basis, but the thing that has made data analytics what it is today is the development of computing power. So Go back to a really fascinating early example from 1869. Um, Charles Minard did what's considered to be one of the first infographics, and it showed how Napoleon's army started off from France, went to Moscow, and then came back. And he did a fascinating version of this that showed, based on the geography and the timeline, um, the width of these two different colored shapes represent where the Grand Armée of Napoleon went and how large it was in each case. So you see that the main body of the army in the beige leaves France. Some of it breaks off to other parts of Europe, but when it gets into Russia and goes deep into the Russian territory, it's already reduced by about 3/4. And then the winter in Moscow happens, and the French are forced to retreat. Along the way, the Grand Armée, as you can see the shape of the black path, decreases in width. Part of the army that had broken off comes back, but then they continue back on their march back to France, and just a tiny fraction of the people are left. So through this graphic, starkly illustrates the disaster that this was for, for the invasion of Russia with Napoleon's army. And so this is considered to be one of the first examples of infographic, which is a form of data analysis communication that takes data and puts the meaning of that data into an easily understandable visual form. That's really a large part of data analytics today. So in the late 1800s, the Wharton School in Pennsylvania developed data models for the economics of canals, the Erie Canal and so forth. And in fact, they were contacted by President Roosevelt in the 1900s to look at the business case for building the Panama Canal. So they developed a lot of the analytical tools that looked at business analytics and understanding how you would be able to make a profit and project that profit. So that was an example of both predictive analytics and prescriptive analytics. Then the Census Bureau, which had struggled after each census every 10 years to collect the data and correlate it, fomented or promoted the introduction of the punch card. The punch card had been invented for controlling automated looms, and through the efforts of the Census Bureau, they developed the application of the punch card as a means of storing data. So with the punch card and punch card tabulator, they were able to complete tabulating the 1890 census in the unheard of space of just 18 months. Um, well, go forward 50 years, 60 years into the 1950s and 60s, and you have electronic computers, which can now do the work of many people that would otherwise be sitting at adding machines and tabulating onto paper. And then personal computers emerged in the 1980s, and with them the product Lotus 123. And one of the one in 123 is the spreadsheet. With Lotus, you were able to build spreadsheets that were interactive, automated, and that allowed you to take the information and turn it into graphs. So this was a huge advance in bringing data analytics power and tools to a lot more people, a lot more powerful form, static data in a ledger or paper spreadsheet. And then finally, we reach today where you have Excel, you have a number of other tools, statistical packages, and you also have things like Tableau, which allow you to create advanced graphical presentations. It's widely available. It's pretty much democratized the notion of data analytics. And now um, it's available. It's a field that anyone can pursue, and it's become extremely important to the digital economy. So I want to impress on you that data drives the digital economy, and data is raw information. What really businesses are looking for are the insights from that data. They need professionals who can do that work, who can look at the data, figure out which of the tools are best used to analyze the data, to interpret the data, and to extract usable insights from that data. Those are insights about what has happened, what is happening, what will happen, or what you should do about it. Those are really the areas that data analytics covers. We talk about how much data there is in the world, a projection that will reach 175 zettabytes. Um, this phenomenal amount of data, but another way of looking at it is the chairman of Google, Eric Schmidt, said um, between the beginning of time and the year uh, 1900, there were 5 exabytes of data produced in the whole world, in all of world history. We produce 5 exabytes of data every 2 days now. And that just keeps accelerating, especially since the pandemic, where our world has become much more digital, where much more of what we do is online or on our mobile devices. We have the Internet of Things, where smart devices from our refrigerators to our automobiles are producing information, data that needs to be interpreted. And there's a process for doing that. It's an interaction between data analysts, data engineers, and data scientists. So data engineers are the people who deal with acquiring and ingesting the data. Ingesting meaning turning it into forms that can be processed by digital systems. So uh, normalization, cleaning up missing data or cleaning up anomalies, typos, that type of thing. All of that process to turn data into data sets that can be processed by analytical tools. In this process, in this slide, we're talking about data analysis in terms of looking at that data once it's been regularized and figuring out where the insights are. So data analytics and data analysts need to do this. So do data scientists. Data analysts will look at this data, try to figure out what form it's taking and what types of analytic tools best apply to it, and then draw from a toolkit. Data scientists may look at that same set of data and build new tools. So that's the model development, looking at how new models of statistical analysis, of data analysis, and interpret data. They're building, data scientists will, through that process, build the tools that data analysts will be able to use. Machine learning is extremely important. Now that machines are able to modify their algorithms based on the data they receive, so many of these models, many of these tools will learn from the new data they acquire and refine their ability to make predictions, make prescriptive suggestions. And finally, you need to be able to take the insights and turn them into visualizations. And that's really one of the key duties of the data analyst. So this is kind of an overview of what data analytics is. And we talk about this quotation, 5 exabytes of information between the dawn of civilization through 2003. And now we create it every 2 days. Information is the oil of the 21st century, and analytics is the combustion engine. That's one way of looking at it. Peter Sondergaard from Gartner, where data drives this latest industrial revolution that we're in. It's been called the fourth industrial revolution, and we're really probably going into a fifth industrial revolution as the power of data is exploited by artificial intelligence, machine learning, and other tools and analytics tools. Jay Baer says we're surrounded by data but starved for insights. That is the key reason that data analytics is a huge career opportunity for people. Um, Businesses get more and more data, but trying to find the information within the data is just more and more frustrating. The more data you get, it's like expression trying to drink out of a fire hose, where so much data is coming in that you really need professional experts who can understand what part of that data is important, how to turn it into actionable knowledge and insights. And then finally, Hillary Mason, who is a data scientist, says data is a tool for enhancing intuition. And that, again, tells us that where many business people learned to manage on gut instinct, now they're relearning the necessity to manage based on evidence and based on what the data about the real world is telling them. So you may think that something is a certain way, or you may think that a particular course of action is the right one, but data will uh, help to give you that gut check and tell you whether your instinct is correct. So that's the value of this field. Cloud computing, sorry for that typo. Growing hugely. Data analytics is growing at a 30% annual rate. The market for data analytics services, and the jump in the market is to 133 billion in 2026 and 2019, a few years ago, it was 20 billion. Now it's slated to become 6 times that size. So that's kind of the foundational background about data analytics itself as the field and what its importance is in the world. Let's talk about where you can find a place within that field. That's the thing that most people are interested in here. And please stay with us. We will get to your questions, and we'll also be able to tell you about the bonus offer that you receive. So different roles open paths to different data analytics careers. And here's a small sampling. Data analysts communicate insights derived from all kinds of data sources. So you might be a data analyst that's working on climate information. You might be looking at the economy. You might be looking at demographics. You might be looking at data from scientific sources or observations. So data analyst is the kind of the general field and applies in all different contexts. Business analysts specialize on data about and derived from business. So a business analyst might look at data external to the business, like economic forecasts and that type of thing. And then they'll combine that with data from within the business, data about sales, revenue, customers, production, supply chain, all of these different aspects of information about the business. And then they'll synthesize that into insights that guide the business managers, the executives of the company, give strategic guidance, give operational guidance, and again, focused on the goals of the business. Data scientists take a kind of a step back or a step higher in their view of the world, because they will look at the data and, as I mentioned before, they'll try to determine what new types of analytic models can be used to understand that data. So where a data analyst might say, okay, I have a set of 10 different tools that I can use. And my job is to interpret or understand what type of data set I'm looking at to apply the right tool. The data scientist might look at the new set of data and say, I need an 11th tool, and I'll design and build that. So it's a path that data analysts can move into as you gain experience and as you gain more training and education. So we talk about that in terms of different directions. You can go from data analyst to business analyst or vice versa. You can go from data analyst to senior data analyst and move up within that same vertical job area or description, or you can move diagonally into data science by increasing your understanding of the underlying models and mathematics and statistics behind them, and then learning how to build those. So there's a lot of advancement, and the advancement, the growth in the market is pretty amazing. There's almost 93,500 data analysts working in the US today. The number of data analysts that will be working in the US is going to grow between now and 2026 by about 20%. So that's another 15 to 18,000 job openings that have to be filled. And companies, this is taken off of Glassdoor, just a sampling of companies that are recruiting now for data analysts: Amazon, IBM, Wells Fargo, Cisco, Cognizant, Accenture. You can see that it goes across many different sectors. And in fact, almost every sector of the economy requires data analysts to help with their data analytics needs. So this is really a very important area, and depending on what your current domain experience is, you can find opportunities in your domain. If you're in financial, or if you're in technology, or if you're in marketing, you can find opportunities to leverage that. If you are looking to get into another domain, build analytic skills, they can be the key for you to move into that particular industry sector that you have your eye on. So that's one of the valuable things about the tools that you'll learn as data analyst. When we talk about value, we also talk about dollars. So uh, fairly routine low-level salaries for data analysts start at 56K, but at the mid-level you move up to 70, and if you stay in the job role of data analyst, as you gain experience, you can get up to 100K. Well, if you work yourself with more skills and develop your career and move into the senior data analyst role, now your salary vertical is much higher, able to do about 50% better salary. If you then continue on and take the training and the education to become a data scientist, you can start opening up even greater potential. So almost double what you would be able to earn as a data analyst. And so you have the ability, is again, to move either laterally or diagonally or vertically, and build your career as you want it to go. Make a very lucrative living for yourself. But you need cloud protection. Pardon me again for this typo. You need up-to-date skills to be a data analyst. You need to be familiar with data analytics, statistical analysis using Excel, which is a basic set of tools, but very common. I'm sorry, very common and available pretty much to everybody. Um, then you want to look at developing more specialized and more um, advanced tools with things like Python to be able to build more advanced and more custom models, um, or use more advanced tools in analytics, including the various Python libraries. Um, you need to look at data manipulation, which is part of the data engineering side of things, so that you understand how that feeds into your analytics process. And then you need to look at communications, visualization, using tools like Tableau to be able to take the insights you generated, turn them into something that's accessible to managers and executives in your organization. Along the way, you'll learn about things like linear and logistic regression, which are the statistical methods used for fitting data to models, um, within models to different uh, predictive lines and curves, and data analysis in AWS, looking at how data analysis can be applied in cloud environments and distributed environments so that you're able to look at the modern world of computing, which is very cloud driven, very distributed, where create or obtain data across distributed sources and provide it to users in a distributed world. And you need to have a number of different tools. So we mentioned Excel, we mentioned Python, we mentioned AWS, we mentioned Tableau. You need to understand SQL as the method of organizing the data for your use. We also want to look at things like non-SQL databases so that you understand how to deal with data that isn't structured that way. So a lot of different tools that you need to become familiar with and proficient in using in order to be effective data analyst. So um, at this point, I'm going to go ahead, go to our questions and answers. I'll take a look in the Q&A here. We have a couple of people who, how often is this program offered yearly? So you can expect this program to be offered about once a month. Will the slides be available after the webinar? We will send you a link to the recording of this presentation, so you'll be able to look at that. Okay, the presentation addresses data engineering, how to prepare data for analytic use. In this context, is data wrangling the same as data scrubbing? So data scrubbing is is part of data wrangling. Data wrangling is all the different things you need to do in order to get data from raw data into a form that can be used for analytics. Data scrubbing is part of that process. So that would be looking for things like uh, gaps in the data, for things like outliers that uh, don't make sense, that might be a spurious reading from a malfunctioning sensor, that type of. It seems data engineers are the people who perform ETL and data architecture. Yes, data engineers are the people who deal with those aspects of um, acquiring data, wrangling the data, preparing it for use by data scientists and data analytics, and then also preparing it for use by automated systems that will apply those types of tools to generate things like ongoing automated dashboards. That is a data engineering role. Okay. Will you be able to share the slides from as I mentioned, that yes, we will be sending recording of a link to this recording. Michael says, I really like working with and interpreting public sector data, like from the government, from the US EPA, the Geological Service, CDC. What do you recommend for interest in focusing on interpreting public sector data? So this gets back to the distinction I made between data analyst and business analyst. So a business analyst would look at mainly business data generated from within the business or within the business ecosystem that can include public sector data. For example, you would want to know about economic data in order to be able to forecast what your business's sales demand going to be in the coming quarters. But if you were looking at the general question of looking at different data sources like the EPA and the Geological Service, the scientific sources, that's general data analysis. And you'd want to look at a program of the type that we're about to talk about, which is data analytics on a more general level, not focused in on business. The tool sets are really fairly much the same in terms of, you need to understand what type of data you're looking at, how it relates to things like seasonality, time series, things like that, so that you can choose the right set of tools. And this is something that you'll learn in a program like this one. Do you have advice for organizations that are fairly simple and rudimentary and use account management systems, data collection? So this is where one of the reasons why the program focuses partly on the use of Excel, because you're going to find organizations and applications where you don't need to go into very advanced customized tools, the types of tools that you can use by generating models in Excel will answer the question that you need. Use the Excel as a rudimentary data management system. And so that's one of the reasons why we structured that. But also you take a look at rest of the question, what metrics are most important for those organizations to identify potential opportunities, potentially work with data scientists to interpret the account management systems. So again, it depends on what is it that you're attempting to find out. And if you look at a software as a service like Salesforce, Salesforce provides account management, collects a lot of data about your sales process, your marketing processes, and even your uh, revenues and customer interactions and, for people who make purchases. So with that respect, you find there's a number of tools within Salesforce that you can use to understand what that data is telling you. So your ability to use data analytics tools will help you use the tools in an environment like that, tool like or platform like Salesforce, to make the correct decisions about what data to extract and how to interpret it. You might want to be looking at, what are the factors that make a particular type of customer more receptive to our sales communications? What are the seasonalities in our sales patterns? Those are the kinds of things that an account management system can help. Does data analytics have to gather the information, or do they already have it? That is a really good question. Data analytics often deals with existing data sources that are set up. But an insight I'll share with you from an executive at Salesforce, in fact, who's in data analytics and decision support area. He said, very often we think that our job is for the customer to come to us, the internal customer or user of the insights, to come to us and say, what can you tell us from this data? And we'll go off, we'll interpret the data, and we'll come back to them with the insights. But in other instances, we go to the customer and say, hey, we just found out a new way of finding data and interpreting it. And we think it can tell you these things. Are those interesting to you? So that's a way that the data analytics staff, the data analysts, look for new sources of data. They might also be called in to consult when something new opens up in the organization, a new platform, for example, creates a new potential source of data about customers, about operations, about interactions. Um, so you might, for example, in a manufacturing environment, uh, find new machines being installed on the factory floor that now have more data collection capabilities uh, than the previous generation. So now you have a new set of data. Um, the manufacturing engineers will know what data the machines can provide, but they may not know what tools to use to interpret that data. So they may call on you, say, okay, this is where the data is coming from. How do we set up a way to pull it together? How will we interpret it? And um, a way that you would be involved in how the data is collected, where it comes from. Is there a beginner's course? This is a beginner's course. We'll be talking about that. Every entry-level position for data analyst or scientist requires 3 to 5 years experience. How does one overcome this hurdle? I'm an electrical engineer transitioning to the data space. Let me offer you an interesting piece of advice. Every entry-level position asks for a certain amount of experience. It does not necessarily require that amount of experience because they may not be able to find people with that amount of experience. And while the HR department may say, oh, let's put that into the job description because that's the kind of people we want, you may, in fact, because it's an entry level position, be able to successfully land that job by showing off you have the skills in order to enable you to do the work. So that's really one of the ways you overcome that by um, having practical examples of using the skills, able to show this is the kind of problem that you need solved. And this is an example of how I've actually done that and solved this problem. Talk about that in a minute. Where does learning engineering stand in this hierarchy? So it stands into the hierarchy of data scientist, a little bit of the understanding in data analytics. Um, you need to have an idea about how the tools can become self-learning in the sense that if you're using a model about, let's say, your sales patterns for sales forecasting, and the more sales you make and the longer the process runs, the more accurate the model becomes because of machine learning capabilities that you might have built into it so that it understands that the fit for the seasonality, for example, gets better and better each year. And so machine learning engineering is something as a data analyst you need to have a basic understanding of. It's really, if you want to be a machine learning engineer, that's a different specialization. Uh, Part of becoming a data scientist, and it can become a separate path on its own for AI and machine learning engineering. Does SAS provide any AI and machine learning? And that I don't know the answer to. I need the understand the need. Marilla says I need understand the need about statistics to apply analytics techniques, but it would it be possible to do other short time courses to achieve that? So there are always ways to study particular specific techniques, skills, concepts. Um, number of them are available through uh, online self-study videos. Simplilearn has a whole set of specific courses that you can also address. Um, if you're looking for a program that will put all of that into the context of a job role like data analyst, the program we're going to describe to you is a really great option for you. So, and you can look at the picking and choosing bits and pieces, and that's a path that's available if you want to fill in certain gaps in your toolkit. If you want to build a robust toolkit more or less from scratch, that's what this program is about. Data analytics roles remotely for workers that are not in the US. Well, data analytics, of course, is required by organizations all around the world. But if you're looking to work for a US-based corporation um, from a remote location, either remotely as in working from home or remotely as in working in one of their branch offices, um, data analytics skills are completely portable in that way because of the world we live in where the cloud interconnects everything and you can move data from any part of the world to any other part of the world almost instantaneously. It's very possible to fill a data analyst role working remotely or being in a remote office of a multinational corporation. So, um, are there any certifications or classes that currently exist that will make me more competitive as a data analyst? We'll be talking about one of those. And then, as I mentioned, you can look at other programs. If you have that basic foundation already and want to add particular skills, uh, there are other programs that you can ask us about. So, how easy or hard is it to change industries without relevant experience? Changing industries and changing job roles are two different things. Let's take industries first. So if you are, for example, in banking and finance, and you want to get into automotive manufacturing, one of the things that you would do is you would take your set of skills that you use in your job in banking and finance, whatever role it is you're in, and you would look for opportunities in that other industry that require the same skills for a similar role. Even though it's a different industry, it probably has similar roles. And data analytics is a perfect example of that. You are capable of doing data analysis in the financial sector, you'll probably find opportunities in any other given industry that require that same kind of data analytics skill. If you're looking to change roles, that's a different thing. If you are, for example, an engineer and you want to pivot into data analytics, then you need to gain the skills. So you may want to continue to work within, let us say, um, uh, consumer goods manufacturing. May want to continue within the role of a manufacturing engineer, but you may want to get more into quality control, Lean Six Sigma, those types of things. You now need to gain analytics capabilities, analytics understanding and skills. So um, you would need to gain more skills in order to be able to move into the different roles within the same industry. Hope that helps with that question. For a self-taught data analyst, I sometimes have major imposter syndrome that don't have a solid statistics foundation. So this is a very good lead in into the program we're going to describe because it will give you the ability to build up that foundation, understand how that works, and allow you to be more confident, but also more capable in your data analytics. Does having a PhD degree in computer science make you overqualified? Uh, Not necessarily. PhD in computer science uh, might make you eligible to pursue a data scientist role. That might be a better path for you because, as pointed out earlier, you might have a higher earning potential in that area. But again, the fact that you have a PhD, you can apply that in any way that you see fit. And depending on what your specialization within computer science was, uh, and you're looking at this field because I presume you're not interested in being a computer engineer, designing new types of systems. Um, so yeah, you could qualify for an analytics job, or you could look at maybe going to the next level and becoming a data scientist. Um, is the data science analytics role for beginners suitable if I have a career break for 13 years? Yes. In the sense that as long as you have a reasonable explanation for your career break, um, that isn't going to cause people to look at your job history oddly. But if you're, for example, if you took a career break to raise a child and now you want to move back into working world, um, this might be a really great program for you because it is designed for people, take them from level 0 on up, and I'll discuss that in a bit. But the fact that you have a career break, as long as the career break isn't something odd in itself, um, that shouldn't be a impediment. When searching for a data analyst job, what's your advice for applying to jobs you don't necessarily have the specific experience with? Um, my experience lies with environmental data, but how do I get a chance to interview with a company wanting to analyze IT data, for example? And here's the really good thing about that. First off, I'm going to share with you something that was said by an executive with Accenture in San Francisco. This was about cybersecurity, but it certainly applies here. Um, this is a female executive who is saying, we don't get nearly enough applicants, female applicants, for cybersecurity roles. The reason we think is that when a male applicant looks at a job description and they see that they have 60% of what the job description requires, they will say, I might as well apply. I might get the job. The female applicant is more likely to say, gee, I only have 90% of what they're asking for. It's probably not worth applying. I won't get the job. Um, the point is that regardless of your gender, uh, you need to look at a job description as this is what the company ideally wants to have if they could create somebody by magic. Um, can't do that. And in the world we live in, technology skills are still hard to find. So if you have most of what the employer requires as stated in the job description, you should go for that. You should apply because the worst thing that can happen is somebody will say no. The best thing that can happen is you'll get an interview and get the job. So going back to the specific question that you have, Rachel, is if you have experience working with environmental data and you can show how there are parallels between the data that you're working with and the IT data that you want to work with, you can show how the analytics tools are pretty much uniform across all domains, and your skill is in understanding what a particular data set looks like and how to choose the right tool to get the insights you need from it, then uh, that makes you transferable across different domains. You shouldn't feel like, well, I know how to analyze environmental data, but I'm not sure that means I can analyze IT data. you know how to analyze environmental data, the likelihood is that you have skills and understanding that you can transfer to the other domain. I hope that answers that question. How important is learning SQL? So learning SQL is important because you're going to have to understand in your analytics rules how to access data that's in a database, and pull it out, create data sets for analysis, maybe create automated channels or pipelines for that data. So it's important to understand. It's one of the reasons why we cover that in this program. What can you suggest for landing internships or entry-level jobs? Part of this program is going to be help with that, but I have a skill set in AI and data analytics, and my field is in electrical engineering. So one of the things, Mohammed, that people recommend works well is to look for open source projects, do some of those, build up a portfolio of experience, because again, if you can demonstrate, here are the skills I have, here is how I've applied those skills to solve this kind of class of problem, that class of problem, can then go to people who have that class of problem, show them that you can do the work for them. So that's really a helpful part of your education and training process. I'm from a finance background, interested in data analytics. I've learned tools like Tableau, Python, etc. And you may already have much of the background that this program we're going to talk about gives you. So you may be looking for a different solution here, but how do you get into the job market? We do it, graduates of this program, we do assist them, but you probably, same as thing I said to Mohammed, where you can start taking your skills, your knowledge of these tools, and demonstrate that through doing open source projects that demonstrate how you use those and your capability of using those to solve problems. Graduating in December with a bachelor's degree of science and statistics. Went to one of the big hardware companies in Kampala, in Uganda, and director asked me what I can do as a statistician to improve his business and which position can he give me. He told me to go back on Friday with this. So I hope that you gained a little bit of insight here, and I don't know if I can give you those answers that will get you the job on Friday. But I would say, and depending on your understanding of how to apply statistics through data analysis, you can tell him that your background in statistics, your capabilities will allow him to make better business decisions because you'll be able to look at information about his business, his competitors, his customers, his suppliers, and the world around him, and gain insights into what has happened in the past, what is happening now, what is likely to happen in the future, and what different approaches he can take to change the outcomes in the future. So those are the things that data analytics and the statistics behind it are able to tell you. Statistics will tell you, based on past patterns, this is what we have seen. Based on past patterns, this is what is likely happening now. Based on past patterns, if we project into the future, we should be able to make the following inferences about what's happening or what populations we're looking at or what trends are happening. And then based on those past patterns and the models we have built from them, we can do what if analysis about if I change this aspect of what I'm doing, what is the likely change in our outcomes? That's really a set of things that you should be able to do for somebody. Again, goes beyond statistics into using statistics for analytics. I hope that is helpful to you, and I wish you all the best luck in getting that job. Um, Bachelor's in National Security Law, and currently working on Google certification in data analytics. Background in finance, where I worked with a couple of credit unions. Um, what specific positions should I focus based on my experience in education and learning about, having learned about mortgage and marketing? So very interesting because um, with data analytics and with things like the mortgage and marketing market, you would be looking at things like what is the expected rate of home sales in my area or in the United States or in the country I'm in. What is the likelihood of interest rate fluctuations? What are the effects of interest rate fluctuations on predicted home sales? Um, where would we find the best prospect given the situation, the current environment we're in? Where would we find the best prospects to market our services to? All of those kinds of questions are things that data analytics can help you answer. So um, hopefully your Google certification will help you with that. We'll be describing the program in more detail about a more in-depth approach. I switch career from medical, take a course in data analytics. How could we approach the resume? Again, as I said before, within any given domain, if you have domain knowledge in medical and healthcare, um, there's lots of opportunities for data analytics in that field. So understanding um, patient populations, understanding um, trends in terms of health maintenance. What are the correlations between our uh, patients' behaviors and diseases like diabetes, for example? Um, uh, could I be working in the pharmaceutical industry on the statistics and analysis around drug trials? A lot of different opportunities. So yes, you would want to talk about your experience. You would want to talk about it in the context of understanding how your data analytics skills help you understand that area better, uh, what you can do to help people make better decisions in that area, but also how your understanding in that area gives you a general understanding that you could apply if you wanted to transfer into a different industry sector. So, again, having the skills and being able to talk about how you apply them in one sector can often be able to tell the story in a way that people can see, oh yes, I understand how that person can do the same thing in my sector. Um, Changing career paths and getting into data analysis, and there are no entry-level positions. I don't believe that that's true. I, I believe that there are entry-level positions. I believe that there are entry-level positions because the demand for talent kind of outstrips supply. So there's um, as I said before, you may see a position listed that says they require a certain, it's an entry level position, but it requires a certain amount of experience. You may well be able to land that job um, by showing how your capabilities um, fit the requirement. How can you find good open source projects where there are a number of different places, and I can't off the top of my head name them, but you can actually do a online search for open source analytics projects. I'm sure you'll come up with several different sites um, that will give you different projects to choose from. So somebody asks, I joined late, how will the recording be available? We will send you a follow-up email with a link to the recordings. What is the easiest way to get experience using programs like R, Python, or SQL? I didn't get a second interview for a job because I lacked applied experience you were looking for. I will address that in just a moment. But yes, you really need applied experience, and this is one of the reasons why um, purely learning from self-taught videos for self-paced videos often doesn't uh, help you get to that next level of your career. You need to have experience examples, and I'll talk about one way to do that. How do you distinguish yourself from other candidates? I'm working as a data analyst, applying for a challenging role from last year, but not getting it through. So again, you want to focus on being able to show demonstrable skills, demonstrations that you have done the kind of work that you're looking to do. If you again need to do projects as part of a program or open source, then you should focus on that so that you can build that portfolio that will distinguish you from other candidates. I'm going to take a quick look into the chat because I've reached the bottom of the Q&A. Let's see if we've got questions in there that I haven't covered. So I'm going to just take a quick look. Apologize for this. Fatma, I do see your question. I will take that up with our staff. Are there loans to get for these programs? We provide options for financing, but we don't provide loans per se. Basic math, data scientists should follow. So the statistics principles and the mathematics principles generally linear algebra and statistics, that type of thing, you can come into a program without knowing those things, but you will have to learn them. My field, Muhammad, my PhD is not in the field of data science. Built a skill set in data science and AL. I think we've talked about that. So, how proficient in coding and programming do you have to be to enter this field? You don't have to enter it with coding proficiency. You will gain the coding proficiency you need if you're in a good program. Shiba says, I have a good background in data analytics. I'm finishing a postgraduate certificate in AI machine learning. What other skills do you recommend? Don't know that I would recommend you need to generate, more skills than that. If you're finishing your AI and ML certification, you are probably setting yourself up for a lot of good opportunities out there right now. So I don't know that you um, need to start looking at broadening your skill set. You may want to look at uh, continuing to deepen your skills in that particular area. But if you want to broaden your skill set into other areas, um, you have analytics, you have AI and ML, general data science might help. And then you can also look at other complementary skills where you would apply this in different domains. So you might look at entirely different types of skills that you would then be able to apply your AI ML data analytics skills to. For companies just starting getting organized in the data analytics field, what would be the first thing they should focus on? I'm not necessarily qualified to give you that answer, but you say business intelligence maturity assessment, that would be a good starting point to be able to understand. You need to understand what sources of data are available to you, understand how they come to you, and on what types of schedule or frequency. Um, you need to understand your strategic and operational goals and how that would draw on the data that you need. Um, You need to identify gaps where to fulfill those goals, you might not have the data yet, and where would you go to find it? And then you need to look at what tools and expertise do you have available to you to turn your available data into the insights that you need to support your goals. So good luck to you with that. Are there any AI certifications or classes that currently exist that make you more competitive as a data analyst, i.e. ChatGPT? So there are certainly classes from Simplilearn that you can look at. There are also other sources available. So if you contact us, we can help you with some of that. How can we get a deal with the company? Or I'll talk about the placement service we have. Not a placement service. It is a job assist service. And so let me make that distinction. See so many people with good portfolio projects attending multiple, even hundreds of interviews in LinkedIn. Are you sure? But yes, again, the demand for data analysts is extremely high. The difference between data science and data analytics, I think we covered that. And finished a master's in public administration 2 years ago. And health and human services, everything is very data driven. People here with no degrees but are familiar with Tableau, you could be one of those people in terms of taking a program that doesn't require a degree but gets you into great data driven jobs within your organization. Okay, and I think, let me see what time we're looking at. It's time for us to wrap up. So again, if I haven't gotten to your question, I apologize. We'd love to answer that with if you contact us further, but I'm going to ask a question of the audience, and this question is, what is stopping you right now from having taken the step? You haven't, for those of you who haven't taken data analytics certification, what's stopped you? What is the thing that you've looked at a program, but what didn't meet your needs? I'll leave this open just for another 10 seconds. So get your answers in. You can pick more than one. And I'll close this in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Poll. And the primary concern people have is not having practical exposure to practical experience that they can demonstrate their skills with. And then finding course programs that fit into their schedule and lifestyle. So you can see that on the poll here. Now I will talk about this very briefly. I'll just spend a couple minutes talking about the Caltech Data Analytics Bootcamp. So Caltech has a Center for Technology and Management Education that helps transfer knowledge from its academic side to industry. They were approached by companies and said, we need your skills and expertise. We need to train our people in that, and they formed this division. And this is one of the programs that they offer. We deliver it on their behalf on our platform, which is a fully online platform. Spend 6 months. You have some classes that are live online, scheduled for the rest of the material that you work on projects and preparation, self-study, and that type of thing. That's all available 24/7, so you can fit it into any time available in your schedule. So pretty much if you can find the time for the set classes each week, you can fit the rest of the program into any working schedule. The curriculum is very comprehensive. You start off with a kind of an orientation that tells you how to use these learning management system, where to find your classes, how to get support, how to ask questions, contact our 24/7 help desk and that type of thing, where you'll find your live classes, where you'll find your other materials. Then we do a module on Excel because, as I mentioned, that is the basic tool everybody has. Understanding how to use that as a basic analytics tool gives you a set of skills that you can take right out of the gate. Then we go into presentations because so much of what you need to do in data analytics is to show people what the insights are that you've generated in a way that they can understand. Understanding how to do that through a clear and concise presentation is very important. Understanding SQL, again, talked about the importance of knowing where and how to find the data. Understanding Python so that you can start looking at more advanced tools than what is available in Excel and able to build more advanced analytics tools for yourself. Then we look at Tableau, as one of you said, see people around you who know Tableau, who are skilled in Tableau, and they're moving ahead when you're not. So this is, again, one of the most important parts about modern powerful visualization and communication tools. Then looking at how data analytics works in the cloud environment, we use AWS for this course. The same principles apply to Azure, Google Cloud, and others. And then you do a final project, which ties together everything you've learned in the course. And the final project lets you create, in addition to all the other projects you've done along the way, it creates the crown jewel of your portfolio, where you can say, this is the problem I chose to solve. This is how I built the solution. You build the solution on your own, but with guidance from instructors so that if you get stuck or if you start going down a rabbit hole, you can get help and direction and going the right way. But you end up with something that you can point to and say, I did that. Show that off to potential employers. This program does not require prior technology knowledge or coding experience. What you need to learn about technology, about mathematics, about programming, you will learn as part of the program. Do not have to have work experience, so you can come into this from any other field. You don't have to come in feeling like, I have to be a data analyst for 2 years to do this. You can come straight out of high school if you want to, but of course, if you're already bachelor's degree and been working for a number of years, this program will also help you pivot into data analytics or gain the skills of data analytics that will help you develop your career. So I'm going to ask the question, how much experience do folks in our audience have? See that I can't launch this poll for some reason. Hold on a second. Let me see if I can fix that. One moment. Let's see if this will work. It is not letting me launch polls. This is not good. One moment here. All right. Having a small malfunction with Zoom, so we'll skip the poll questions. I'm going to go ahead and tell you about the Career Assist service because I mentioned that earlier. The fact that you are able to get, this is for users in the U.S. I apologize for if you're not out, you're outside the U.S. But this allows you to get 6 months of job assistance support with custom job board available, as well as resume rewrite service and interview practice service. We had one individual who's taken the course from the UK. Again, I apologize that we don't offer this outside. Currently, we are working on fixing that. You also get, of course, the real world projects for your portfolio that you've developed during the program and access to other webinars and events that we run. So I would love to ask you this question, and I will try to ask you this question. but I don't know that I will be able to ask you this question. Why this is not happening. Hold on a second here. Okay. Oh, I know why it's not happening. We reached after the hour, so it's not letting me do that. I apologize. So let me just share with you the program fees, which are $10,000 flat. But if you mention that you went to this webinar and start in the cohort where classes start in May, you will receive a $500 discount off of the price of the program. And of course, you can finance the program over time in equal monthly installments. So it'll be less than $880 a month after you claim your discount. Contact us at askus@simplilearn.net, and I am going to put that into the chat. And I am hoping that Zoom will not kick me out. And I'm going to put into the chat right now. Here is the email address and the link to our program page. Get that, and we will be sending you a follow-up email with a link to this presentation, and we will be sending, we hope we can welcome you into the learning community with Caltech and with Simplilearn. Use the QR code to get to the program page. Please do email us at askus@simplilearn.net, and we will provide you with information, answer your questions, help you get enrolled, help you claim that discount. So again, thank you so much. We look forward to seeing you in this program with Caltech and Simplilearn. That concludes the webinar.